There's a fake product on every menu whose only job is to make you spend more, and you've never noticed it.
Yeah, I mean, it is basically hiding in plain sight every single day.
Right. Well, welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We're pulling apart exactly how this invisible manipulation works. We're drawing from this incredibly eye-opening piece of research titled The Invisible Decoy: Mastering the Psychology of Pricing.
It is such a fascinating paper.
It really is. So we're going to look at the menus you order from, the websites you browse every single day, just to figure out how this psychological trap is actively hijacking your wallet, like right under your nose.
Yeah, and the goal here is to really deconstruct the architecture of this trick. We're going to look at the underlying behavioral economics.
Because it is a science, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because once you understand the mechanics of why your brain calculates value the way it does, I mean, you really can't unsee the invisible strings pulling your decisions.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because right out of the gate, the language in the source material really caught my attention. Yeah, like calling a product fake when it's sitting right there on an illuminated menu board or, a glossy pricing page, it feels like a stretch.
Sure, I get that.
Like, if it has a name and it has a price and I can physically point to it and hand over my money, I mean, how is it a fake product?
It's a very logical hesitation. Because it physically exists, yes, the business will gladly sell it to you if you, insist on buying it.
Right.
But it is economically fake. It's a phantom option because its sole purpose on that menu is not to be purchased. It was engineered and placed there strategically just to change how you feel about the other options.
So it's essentially a prop.
Precisely. It's a prop. The formal psychological term used in our source material is the asymmetric dominance effect.
Asymmetric dominance effect.
Yeah, that is the scientific mechanism powering this invisible decoy.
Which, sounds incredibly technical.
It does sound a bit academic, yeah.
But if I'm understanding the research correctly, the real-world application of this is actually much more relatable. Think about it like a wingman at a bar.
Oh, I like that. That's an interesting way to frame it.
Yeah, so imagine you are going out, right? And you want to look as attractive and, put together as possible.
Naturally.
So you bring a friend, but you specifically bring a friend who agrees to just dress terribly for the night.
The ultimate sacrifice.
Exactly. Like they wear an unironed, poorly fitted shirt, shoes that completely clash. They just look like a total mess.
Yeah.
And their only job for the entire evening is to stand right next to you.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going.
They are the decoy. By comparison, because they look so deliberately off, you suddenly look vastly more attractive and stylish to anyone looking at the two of you. Your friend isn't there to get a date. They're there to shift everyone's perception of your value.
That is a remarkably accurate analogy. I mean, the terribly dressed wingman is the asymmetrically dominated option.
Okay.
So in behavioral economics, a decoy is asymmetrically dominated when it is completely inferior to one option, but only partially inferior to another.
Right.
So, to use your analogy, the wingman is completely inferior to you in style, making you the obvious, easy choice for anyone comparing the two of you. They aren't there to win, they are there to make the target look undeniable. What's fascinating here is how heavily we rely on this kind of relative comparison without realizing it. Uncovering it generates this profound feeling of disbelief because it's completely invisible until you know to look for it. The human brain actually hates calculating absolute value.
Wait, what do you mean by absolute value?
I mean, figuring out what something is inherently worth in a vacuum. Like, if I just hand you a cup of coffee and ask, what is the precise monetary value of the joy and energy this will bring you?
I would have no idea.
Exactly. Your brain struggles. That requires complex, exhausting mental math. But if I put a $5 coffee right next to a $10 coffee, your brain relaxes. It says, well, I don't know what either is truly worth, but the $5 one is half the price of the $10 one, so it must be a better deal. We don't evaluate things in isolation. We evaluate things by comparing them to whatever happens to be sitting right next to them.
Which means whoever controls the things sitting right next to your target choice completely controls your perception of value.
Exactly. When people look at a menu, they naturally assume all the options were placed there in good faith, as genuine choices meant to cater to different consumer needs.
You just assume they want to sell you everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But realizing that one of those choices is a psychological landmine designed solely to manipulate your baseline comparison, it fundamentally changes how you see the retail world.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source material brings this down from the ivory tower of economic theory and points to a highly relatable, real-world scenario.
Yeah, the classic example.
Let's look at the quintessential trap. You just walked into the lobby of a movie theater.
The absolute perfect laboratory for behavioral economics.
Right. So you have your ticket, you smell that artificial butter pumping through the air vents, and you are staring up at the concessions menu. Let's look at how the movie theater popcorn menu is engineered.
Yeah, let's break down the math of this case study. Imagine the theater only offers two options initially. You have a small popcorn for $4 and a large popcorn for $8.
Okay, 4 and 8.
In that scenario, a significant portion of customers will look at those two absolute prices, look at the giant bucket, and think, well, I don't need all that food, and I definitely don't want to spend $8 on popcorn. The small is fine.
Which is a problem for the theater, because popcorn kernels cost them practically nothing.
Pennies, really.
Right. So the profit margin on that large bucket is astronomical. They desperately want you to buy the large.
Which puts the theater in a bind, because they want to push the large, but they can't just aggressively jack up the price of the small from $4 to, say, $7.
If people would riot.
Exactly. If they do that, the consumer feels gouged, they get angry, and they might just skip the concession stand altogether. So the theater doesn't change the price of the small or the large. Instead, they introduce a third option. They introduce the decoy.
The wingman of the concession stand.
Yes, they add a medium popcorn to the menu. But the pricing is the key to the asymmetry here. They keep the small at $4, they price the medium at $7.50, and the large remains at $8.
Hold on, though. Let's pause right here because I want to challenge this a bit.
Sure.
Are we giving this menu too much credit? Like, we all like to think we are rational actors.
You do.
Sometimes if I buy the large popcorn, maybe it's not because I'm being played like a fiddle by some invisible psychological trick. Maybe it's just because I skipped lunch, I'm starving, and I legitimately want a massive bucket of popcorn.
That is the exact defense mechanism our brains use to justify the purchase after the fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We want to believe our internal needs, like hunger, dictate our behavior. But the data analyzed in our source material reveals a very uncomfortable truth. The decoy works regardless of your baseline hunger.
Seriously?
Yes, and it works because it fundamentally shifts the question your brain is trying to answer in that moment.
What do you mean by shifting the question?
Well, when it was just the small for $4 and the large for $8, your brain was asking an internal question. How hungry am I? You evaluate the volume of the food versus the cost.
Right.
But the moment that 750 medium is introduced, the question in your head changes. You are no longer asking, how hungry am I? You are suddenly asking, how do I get the best deal?
Oh, wow. It completely changes the game I'm playing in my head. Like, I'm not managing my appetite anymore. I'm trying to win a financial puzzle.
And it's a puzzle designed for you to win in exactly one way. When you look at the medium for $7.50 and the large for $8, your brain does that rapid, lazy math of relative comparison.
The lazy math.
Yeah. You say to yourself, well, for just 50 cents more, I get way more popcorn. Anyone who buys the medium is a sucker. The large is an absolute steal.
Oh my gosh, I am laughing because I have literally done this.
We all have.
I have stood at a concession stand with friends, originally planning to just get a small to share, and suddenly I'm the one arguing, guys, it's financially irresponsible for us not to get the large.
Exactly.
Like, it's basically free popcorn for 50 cents. I felt like a Wall Street trader pulling off this brilliant arbitrage strategy over a bucket of popcorn.
Which perfectly highlights the true brilliance of the asymmetric dominance effect. I mean, the decoy doesn't just make you spend double what you originally intended. It provides you with a built-in rationalization.
Yeah.
It spikes what economists call transaction utility.
Transaction utility.
Yeah, that's the psychological joy of getting a good deal.
Yeah.
And that joy completely overrides the acquisition utility.
Which is my actual need for the popcorn.
Right. The $7.50 medium never existed to be sold. It existed entirely to make the $8 large look completely reasonable.
Okay, I buy that we fall for this over 50 cents of popcorn. The stakes are incredibly low, and we're usually rushing to get to our seats before the previews end anyway.
True.
But surely, when real money is on the line, like when we're talking about hundreds of dollars, our logical brains engage, right?
Right.
We don't just blindly follow the decoy when it impacts our bank accounts in a real way.
You would think so, but the research proves otherwise. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this exact same mechanism is deployed on sophisticated pricing pages for expensive home appliances, tech gadgets, software subscriptions, you name it.
Everywhere.
The stakes scale up, but the human brain's reliance on relative comparison remains exactly the same. Which brings us to the legendary Williams-Sonoma bread maker case study from the text.
Oh, this one is wild. Let's set the scene for this one. Because moving from an $8 bucket of popcorn to a premium kitchen appliance is a big leap.
It is, but the underlying psychology is identical. So decades ago, Williams-Sonoma introduced a high-end home bread maker. It was priced at $275, and it simply wasn't selling.
At all.
Nope. It was a completely new category of kitchen gadget for most consumers at the time.
Which makes sense. I mean, if I'm flipping through a high-end culinary catalog and I see a machine for $275 that basically just mixes dough and bakes it, I'm going to hesitate.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. Because going back to what you said earlier, I don't have a baseline for absolute value here. I don't know if $275 is a fair price for a bread maker because I've never bought one before.
Exactly. Consumers were experiencing massive price resistance. When presented with just the $275 machine, they were comparing the cost of the machine against the value of keeping their $275 in the bank.
Which always feels safer.
Always. And compared to keeping their money, buying a novel appliance felt like a huge risk. So the manufacturer brought in a marketing research firm to solve the problem.
Now, it's funny. Because my instinct as a business owner in that situation would be to discount the product, run a sale, or at the very least hide anything more expensive so I don't scare the buyer away by reminding them how pricey kitchen gear can get.
That is the logical assumption. But the marketing firm understood the asymmetric dominance effect. They didn't lower the price of the machine.
They did the exact opposite.
They did. Instead, they told Williams-Sonoma to build a second bread maker. A slightly larger, slightly more feature-heavy model, and they priced it at $429.
Over $400 for a bread maker. That's absurd.
It was heavily overpriced for the minor increase in features. I mean, the price jump was massive compared to the utility jump. It was mathematically a terrible deal.
Right.
But they placed this new $429 machine right next to the $275 machine in the catalog. And almost overnight, sales of the $275 machine doubled.
It actually achieves the exact opposite of what my business instinct told me it would. Instead of scaring them away, it opened the floodgates.
Because it solved the consumer's absolute value problem by creating a new context. This is known as context-dependent preference.
Okay, so creating a contest.
Right. Before the $429 Decoy existed, you were comparing the $275 machine to a vacuum. You were comparing it to your own bank account.
Yeah.
But the moment the $429 machine arrives, your brain happily abandons the difficult comparison to your bank account, and it just starts comparing the two machines to each other.
So you look at the $429 one, and you think, well, I certainly don't need an extra large loaf capacity.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't want to spend over $400. And then your eyes slide over to the $275 one, and suddenly it doesn't look like a risky, expensive novelty anymore.
It looks like a prudent, sensible compromise. The $429 machine was the asymmetrically dominated Decoy. Its primary job was never to dominate the market of giant bread makers.
It was just a wingman.
It was just a wingman. Its job was to serve as an anchor. It dragged your perception of what a bread maker could cost all the way up to $400, which made the $275 price tag look like a massive saving.
I can feel the listener relating to this exact feeling right now. I mean, think about the last time you browsed a pricing page for a software subscription or a new phone.
That happens all the time.
You see that massively overpriced, strangely out-of-place premium option, and you feel brilliant for choosing the middle tier. You think, who on earth would buy the ultra premium one? I'm so glad I found this perfectly priced middle option.
And that is the trap of relative valuation. That feeling of being a smart shopper, that little hit of dopamine you get when you think you've navigated the market perfectly and found the sweet spot, it's engineered.
It's totally fake.
Yeah. When you realize that your moment of consumer triumph was actually the result of a fake product perfectly placed to manipulate you into buying the item they wanted you to buy all along, it creates a profound sense of disbelief.
It is entirely an illusion of choice. You feel like you wandered into a complex maze of options, evaluated all the paths logically, and arrived at the best possible outcome for yourself. But the maze was designed with only one exit, and the walls of the maze were built out of fake options.
That's a great way to put it.
But that raises a really important question about the boundaries of this theory.
Okay.
Does this invisible manipulation have limits? Like, what happens if a company just floods the menu? If they put 4, 5, or 6 options on the pricing page, does the decoy still work?
It's a crucial distinction to make. The decoy effect actually breaks down if you introduce too many options.
Oh, real?
Yeah, this taps into another psychological principle called choice overload. If a menu gives you 6 different sizes of popcorn or a software company gives you 7 different subscription tiers, the brain's ability to easily compare them collapses. The relative math becomes too difficult again.
The puzzle gets too hard, so we just walk away.
Exactly. When faced with too many choices, consumers tend to freeze, defer the decision, or just pick the absolute cheapest option out of frustration.
Right.
The asymmetric dominance effect relies on simplicity. It usually operates best in a rule of 3. You need the target, the competitor, and the decoy. The decoy only works if the comparison is incredibly easy for the brain to process lazily. It has to be a clear, unambiguous anchor.
Okay, so if simplicity is the key to the trap, what about awareness?
What do you mean?
Well, now that we're sitting here, deconstructing the Williams-Sonoma bread maker and movie theater popcorn, now that we know what an asymmetrically dominated option looks like, does it stop working on us? Like, if I walk into a theater tonight, am I immune?
That is the most insidious part of cognitive biases. Awareness doesn't always equal immunity.
That is so depressing.
I know, but think of it like a visual optical illusion, like the one where 2 lines are the exact same length, but one has arrows pointing outward and the other has arrows pointing inward.
Oh yeah, the molar layer illusion.
Exactly. Even after someone takes a ruler and proves to you that the lines are mathematically identical, when you step back, your brain still sees one line as longer.
Because the hard wiring of our visual processing overrides our logical knowledge.
Exactly. Behavioral economics works the same way. Even when you know the $7.50 medium popcorn is a decoy, when you look at the menu, the $8 large will still structurally feel like a better deal.
Right.
The transaction utility is still tempting. The difference is that now, with this knowledge, you have the analytical tools to pause, override that feeling, and ask yourself what you actually need rather than what feels like a win.
So what does this all mean? We've gone from the sticky, artificial, butter-scented floors of a movie theater to the glossy, high-end pages of a culinary catalog. We've looked at 50-cent upgrades and $150 price jumps.
What it means is that the asymmetric dominance effect is a constant, invisible force in our modern economy. Whether you are deciding on a Friday night snack, choosing a tier for your cloud storage, or deliberating over a major appliance for your kitchen counter, the environments where you make choices are rarely neutral.
They're rigged.
They are curated architectures. The fake option is built into menus, pricing tiers, and car dealership packages solely to shift your perception of value. It leverages your brain's hatred of absolute value, forcing you into relative comparisons that make you overspend, all while letting you believe it was your own clever idea.
Which means that, armed with this knowledge, you're going to experience the retail world a little differently from now on. The next time you see 3 subscription tiers for a service or 3 sizes of a drink at a coffee shop, your eye is going to go straight to that middle option.